tests conducted in Britain incident to the origin of Operation Pluto, pipelines under the ocean to supply gasoline for the Allied armies on the Western Front. Until victory in Europe, this was one of the most closely guarded secrets of the war. Now it can be revealed that the idea of a flexible pipeline was first discussed in England as early as 1942. The first result was an experimental pipeline made of lead with special flexible covering, which was given exhaustive trials by combined operations personnel. Another type of pipeline tried out was the outgrowth of an engineering scheme for welding steel pipe into any given length with enough flexibility to enable it to be wound on a large floating drum. Soon, secret yards began filling up with 3/4-mile sections of this amazingly flexible steel pipe, ready to be welded into continuous lengths of more than 30 miles. "20 pipelines were laid under the English Channel from Great Britain to France. 4 lines run from the Isle of Wight to Cherbourg, and 16 from Dungeness to Boulogne. Since 12th August 1944, a total of 120 million gallons of fuel has been pumped through the lines that connect with pumping stations concealed along the English coast. The flow of petroleum followed our armies right up to the Rhine. Even though fighting has ended, the pipelines are expected to continue operating indefinitely. They'll supply armies of occupation and liberated countries, releasing oil tankers and other transport for use in the Pacific. At Tempelhof Airport, Berlin, Field Marshal Sir Bernard Montgomery arrives for a meeting with other members of the 4-man Allied Control Council set up to govern defeated Germany. Accompanied by General Sokolovsky, Field Marshal Montgomery inspects a Russian Guard of Honor from the Soviet Army now occupying Berlin. The meeting is held 5th June in a Berlin suburb. Marshal Zhukov, representing the Soviet Union on the Control Council, arrives at the conference building. General Eisenhower arrives with Field Marshal Montgomery. In simultaneous announcements by the American, British, Soviet, and French governments, supreme authority in Germany is assumed jointly by the 4 powers because of the absence of central authority since the unconditional surrender. Marshal Zhukov, who commands the Soviet occupation forces in Germany, addresses the assemblage and then signs the documents. Marshal Montgomery puts his name to papers setting up 4 zones of occupation. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, acting in his new capacity as commander of the American Forces of Occupation, also signs. Major General Delattre signs for France. As the meeting is brought to a conclusion, the Control Council, grouped here, announces that it will exercise supreme authority in matters affecting Germany as a whole, and that individual commanders-in-chief are to ensure appropriate uniformity of action in their respective zones of occupation. Testing the XR-8 helicopter, an experimental ship built for the Army. It's also known as the syncropter, a term which signifies that the twin 3-bladed rotors are closely intermeshed. This neutralizes torque forces and smooths rotor vibration. A 6-cylinder air-cooled engine is housed directly behind the 2-seater plexiglass cockpit. The length of the XR-8 is 36 feet. Total rotor span, 40 feet. Weight, 2,900 pounds. Top speed, approximately 100 miles per hour. Service ceiling, 8,500 feet. Hovering ceiling, 2,000 feet. Making use of its directional control feature, the XR-8 moves toward a small marked-off rectangle to illustrate the accuracy of a helicopter landing in restricted quarters. Air Force films of another helicopter incorporating important new principles of rotary wing design. The big wooden blades are mounted over a stabilizing bar, which acts much like a gyroscope, giving the craft basic stability. Precision control features include a lever which directs the pitch of the rotor for rising and descending. Foot pedals control the small anti-torque tail prop, serving much like a rudder and giving directional control. Pitch control enables the helicopter to hover, needing no forward speed to sustain it in flight. It can fly at 0 miles per hour. A conventional stick is moved in whatever direction the pilot wishes to travel. The craft can fly backward or sideward as easily as forward. The stick action tilts the plane of the revolving rotor and the helicopter travels in the direction of the tilt. Whatever its speed or flight pattern, the craft remains sensitive to the slightest change of controls. The M1 Carbine and its new counterpart, the M2. A lever on the left side of the M2 is the key to their difference. Firing the M2 as a semi-automatic, it performs the same as the M1, a single shot each time the trigger's pulled. When the lever or selector is moved forward, the M2 becomes a full automatic. A new magazine developed for the M2 holds 30 rounds. The rate of fire is from 750 to 775 rounds per minute. An operating model to show how the M2 functions. A new hammer and sear trip have been designed for this carbine. An added part, the sear trip lever, is used to pivot the trip. It fits on another new part known as the crank pin. With the lever in place, the model functions like the M2 in full automatic fire. Following the full automatic firing cycle, as the trigger is squeezed, the slide moves to the rear and the trip pivots. This moves the trip away from the sear. Just as in semi-automatic operation, it catches the hammer and holds it in cocked position. As the slide moves forward, the toe of the lever is cammed down. The rear end pivots the trip, releasing the hammer. All the new parts of the M2 are controlled by the selector, which fits on the crank pin. In automatic position, the toe of the lever is in contact with the cam on the operating slide. In semi-automatic position, the crank pin lowers the lever away from the cam. Although the firepower of the carbine has been increased to more than 750 rounds per minute, its original weight of about 6 pounds has only been slightly increased. The M2 has been designed for the type of close-in fighting that is being encountered in the war against the Japanese. Airstrikes on northern Luzon. P-38s dropped napalm firebombs on Japanese troop concentration, supply dumps, and communication lines in the Bulletin Pass area. A-20s strafe fortified mountains where the enemy is putting up stiff resistance to prevent advancing 6th Army troops from entering the Cagayan Valley. Elements of the 25th Division enter the ruins of the important highway village of Santa Fe. Santa Fe, stubbornly defended by the Japs, fell after 2 months of fighting. With grenades, troops clean out bypassed cave pockets in the Santa Fe area. Point-blank rifle fire wipes out remaining enemy pockets. A captured Jap 90mm mortar is removed from a cave. The mortar is a smooth-bore muzzle-loading weapon firing a 16-inch incendiary shell. A 150-millimeter mortar is another weapon captured by our troops. This is also a smooth-bore muzzle-loading weapon. Assembling the mortar, the base plate is set to receive the tube. Attaching the tube to the base plate. A ball-like projection fits smoothly into the retaining socket. The tube is approximately 59 inches long and weighs about 220 pounds. Setting up the legs of the mortar and attaching the bipod to the tube. The leg bolt firmly secures the bipod. Assembling the traversing and elevating mechanism. Completely assembled piece is 557 pounds. Traverse is 7 degrees. This mortar fires a 44-pound HE shell. Rate of fire is 3 rounds per minute. Airstrike in the vicinity of Ipoh Dam east of Manila. Thunderbolts, Lightnings, and Mustangs of the 5th Air Force pound Jap defenses in the vital Manila watershed. Bazookas open up an attack by 38th Division troops on Jap installations at Wawa Dam. 149th Regiment troops advance cautiously against hidden Japs. Capturing the Wawa Dam intact, our troops free the last remaining source of Manila's water supply still in enemy hands. Assault troops cross a mined footbridge over the dam while concealed infantrymen cover the advance. Troops enter a valve house of the Wawa Dam as bazookas blast the enemy from his remaining positions. Arrival from Washington of General Joseph W. Stilwell at 38th Division Headquarters, Luzon. General Stilwell, Chief of the Army Ground Forces Training Program, confers with Major General William C. Chase, Commanding Officer of the 38th Division. General Stilwell's mission here, prior to his appointment as Commanding General of the 10th Army, is to study the special combat problems in the war against Japan and correlate the Army's redeployment and replacement training program with the needs of the Pacific War. Freight trains of the Bengal-Assam Railroad pull into a transfer shed located near the point of origin of the Ledo Road. Here, Negro troops of a quartermaster railhead company supervise coolie laborers employed to unload cargoes for transshipment by truck convoy to points in Burma and China. In this headquarters area, the Negro units handle every phase of the operations incident to moving vital replacements along the Ledo route. Their maintenance shop has been nicknamed the Ledo Road Super Service Station by GI truck drivers. Established in July 1944, the shop provides first and second echelon service to trucks and other vehicles that start from here along the 1,044-mile road into China. It's one of several such establishments based along the route and manned by elements of quartermaster truck companies. This station can completely service about 80 trucks per day. Most of the drivers who handle the trucks on the arduous route are Negroes. After refueling, they begin the 103-mile run to the transfer shed at Xingbuyang, Burma. The convoy route is through the treacherous Patkai Mountains. At Xingbuyang, the cargoes are transferred from the 2.5-ton trucks to 10-ton trailers. Again, coolie labor is employed with Negro troops supervising the switchover of goods from trucks to trailers. One of the Negro trucking battalions, known as the Fighting Freighting, has seen 22 months of service on the Ledo front. The trailers begin the long run out of Xingbuyang to Michinaw, Bamo, and the junction with the old Burma Road, now linked with the Ledo Road to form the Stilwell Road. They pass engineer crews who are making various improvements and changes to compensate for the heavy flow of water during the monsoon season. The men are part of a General Service Engineer Regiment operating along the Ledo Road from the 103 to 166 mile mark. A War Department report lists Negro troops as constituting about 65% of the more than 15,000 soldiers used in constructing the Ledo Road. A detachment of Negro engineers began work on the road in December 1942. And a convoy from India to China rolled over the completed road. 25 months later, a Negro was driving the lead vehicle. Located in the mountains of northern Burma is one of the Army's all-Negro staffed hospitals. It serves both Negro and white troops on duty along a 60-mile strip of the Ledo Road. In addition, medical facilities are provided for Allied troops en route to Lower Burma and China, and for Naga natives who are being introduced to modern medicine. Services from dentistry to delicate surgery are routine procedure for the highly trained staff. The average daily occupancy of the hospital is 85 patients, of whom about 20 are white troops. The Negro doctors at Tagap actually constitute the staffs of 2 station hospitals that combined their facilities after arriving in the IB theater. Each hospital has a commissioned roster and a complement of skilled enlisted men technicians. Several of the nurses saw service in Liberia. The pharmacy is equipped with all the components necessary to fill doctors' prescriptions. A technician obtains a blood specimen to be used in a malaria test. The blood smears on the glass slides are prepared for microscopic examination. Malarial mosquitoes constitute but one of the natural menaces to operation of the Ledo Road. Leeches and flies, monsoon rains, and tropical temperatures that rise to 140 degrees all bring about problems for the medical men. The X-ray clinic. Portable field equipment is used. Doctors study the chest photograph for any pulmonary condition that might require clinical care. Patients receive the attention of Red Cross welfare workers attached to the hospital. Tobacco and other items are provided. A rehabilitation program aids in speeding the complete recovery of those who have successfully responded to medical care. Soon, these men will be returned to their units. Continue to play a major role in maintaining the road and getting the trucks through to China. A Pioneer Superfort bomber unit, formerly based in the China-India area, is transferred to the Marianas. B-29s fly to a new base on Tinian Island. Improved airfields, airstrips, and revetments on Tinian await the arrival of the Superforts. The flight of 3,600 miles from India is made in 2 laps, one of 1,000 miles over the hump to an airfield in the mountains, and the second of 2,600 miles direct to the Marianas. The first planes arrived safely at Westfield, Tinian. This was the pioneer of all the B-29 units. Its first plane landed in India on 2nd April 1944, and one of its first missions as part of the 20th Bomber Command was the bombing of the Japanese city of Yawata, 15th June 1944. These pioneers also flew many missions over Manchuria, Thailand, China, and Formosa. The Superfort Black Magic and its crew, the first of the transferred B-29s to land on the Tinian airstrip. More than 150 of the huge planes made the hazardous trip without loss. Brigadier General Roger M. Ramey, commander of the organization, is leader of the flight. A B-29 which landed short of the runway bounced over the edge and was badly damaged. The rear section is almost completely severed from the rest of the fuselage. The newly arrived Superforts join other Marianas-based planes to strike at Japan. Target is Nagoya, Honshu Island. Over 500 superforts are on the raid, which smashes the city. Bombs away. Nagoya, second largest city in Japan, is hit by one of the greatest loads of incendiary bombs ever dropped. Towering clouds of